Okay, people, so before we get started, in case you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button and hit that bell to get notified when we drop new videos. New episodes of Forever News come out every Saturday, 12 p.m. EST, and then we re-upload some of the segments into smaller form videos throughout the week for your viewing pleasure to get to those stories easier. So, yeah, I'd appreciate it if you hit those buttons. Let's jump into the stories. Dragon Ball fans, hear me now, believe me later. No. Dragon Ball fans, I got a couple of pieces of news. We got to talk about the manga. We got to talk about the Dragon Ball superhero film. I guess once again, let's get the bad news out the way first. And you could argue bad news, it's kind of a mixed bag, I guess you would say, regarding the manga, and then we'll talk about the pretty freaking insane news regarding the anime. And the quote-unquote bad news, again, I use that loosely. At the end of the day, this is a benefit to the authors, so shout outs to them for that. It says Dragon Ball Super will be entering a short break to prepare for the next arc of the series, starting in V-Jump issue number 11 2022 with no return date announced. Hold up. Oh wow, I thought it was just a month. I'm almost certain it's a month. Don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure it was just a month. But according to this, it says it doesn't have no return date announced, and that's kind of scary. That's kind of scary because, yeah, why with no return date? Like when Boruto had that break, they were like, okay, it's just a 1 month break. Likewise with all the other series that have recently had big breaks, One Piece with that 1 month break, Black Clover with that 3 month break. Why no return date? That's a little bit scary. I'm just saying, like, I hope there's no problems. I hope there's no issues. It could very well be that, one, they're giving them a rest, because at the end of the day, I'd imagine it's taxing on Toyotaro. Like, you got to think about Toyotaro's situation, and he's the guy that's doing the art for Dragon Ball Super. He's been doing it since the beginning. He is basically replacing Toriyama in terms of the artist of the manga. He got a lot on his plate, right? Not only does he have to delegate and deliberate and go back and forth regarding the story with Toriyama and everybody else involved in the creation of Dragon Ball Super's manga, but then on top of that, he has to draw the manga, and on top of that, he has to make sure that he's drawing the manga to look as closely as possible to these iconic characters. Like, that is a very, very tall order. We see in Boruto that, especially early on, that wasn't quite working out the greatest of matching Masashi Kishimoto's designs and whatnot. So Toyotaro has his hands full. I'm hoping that this is not that long of a break. Again, I really hope that it's just a month, 2 max. Any more than that, and it's gonna be a little bit like, whoa, what's happening here? I mean, they very well could be holding off until maybe they're gonna announce Dragon Ball Super TV anime returning, and then boom, the manga returns right with that. That would be very big, but yeah, I didn't know that, especially after leaving on such a freaking amazing part. If you read the Dragon Ball Super manga right now, while some people a little bit critical about it, me personally, I absolutely loved how chapter 87 left off. It was insane. It was a massive setup for the future, and I'm just hoping that they're using this time to really map out where they're going to go with the series moving forward. I hope this isn't like trouble in paradise, so to speak, but we gotta wait and see. So that's what we have regarding the Dragon Ball Super manga. It's going on a break. It'll be back. No return date as of yet. Again, it's probably just a month, but it could be longer than that. Now, onward to insane, iconic, revolutionary news regarding Dragon Ball Super Superhero the movie. Now, that's been a roller coaster ride of a conversation because, in case you don't know, to give you guys, bring you up to speed, Dragon Ball Super Superhero the movie over there in Japan has not been performing very well. It's done in 60 days. The last time I checked, it was 60 days, 17 million. It was like less than half, or about half of what Broly did in 60 days. And in terms of like comparing it to something that released recently, One Piece Film Red blew it out in 5 days compared to its 60-day total. So it was just ridiculous over there. And that had me thinking like, okay, so it's really, really dead on arrival. Like, they really hate it. But over here in the West, it is not the same. This is going to change a lot of things, I'd imagine, because they usually use Dragon Ball as the blueprint. Well, if it worked or it didn't work for Dragon Ball, it may work with X, Y, and Z series. And basically, over here in the West, Dragon Ball Super Superhero has been killing it. For starters, the first day sales of Dragon Ball Super Superhero outdid every anime movie over here in the West in history. It outdid Pokemon, the first movie. It outdid it all. What I want to say was either $10.1 or $10.2 million day one. That right there alone speaks volumes of, oh, Japan is no longer the definitive indicator on whether or not something will pop over here in the West. Because again, it's been failing over there. It did 17 million in 60 days. We did 10 million in a day. That right there, massive, huge, humongous. So one thing that it shows is that maybe creators might take some more chances on the West and not completely focus solely on, well, we got to get it popping in Japan, and if it doesn't work in Japan, who cares about everywhere else? We just got to get it to work in Japan because look at that. So that's already iconic. But then it's opening weekend. What did it do? Because, it could have been a little fluke. Day 2 could have been $1 million or something like that, and by no means was it. Dragon Ball Super Superhero takes down Beast on its way to a U.S. weekend box office victory. Dragon Ball Super Superhero secured a weekend box office victory in the U.S., surpassing Universal's survival thriller Beast and landing in first place with $20.1 million. Literally outdid Japan's revenue from 60 days. The West had something to say, dog. The West got something to say. As Variety reports, the latest Dragon Ball Super installment about doubled the amount of North American ticket sales The Beast, starring Idris Elba, collected at the U.S. weekend box office. That film opened to a modest $11.5 million, while Sony's action thriller Bullet Train slipped to third place after hauling in another $8 million in its third weekend of release. We're absolutely thrilled that Dragon Ball fans could come together to experience and enjoy this amazing film in theaters, Michael Berger, Crunchyroll's Senior VP of Global Commerce, said in a statement. Crunchyroll thanks all the fans, whether or not you are a super fan or a newcomer, and we hope they come back again and again. The new movie is a direct sequel to the Broly film that was released initially in 2018 and draws focus away from Goku and Vegeta in favor of Gohan and Piccolo. Broly debuted at $22.3 million over a 6-day holiday weekend in the US, but experienced a steep revenue drop in its second weekend, which can be a common occurrence for anime features. Superhero's box office takings are tracking above or close to the performance of other recent anime titles. Jujutsu Kaisen 0, for instance, grossed $17.6 million during its opening weekend. We beat out Jujutsu Kaisen. While Demon Slayer The Mugen Train enjoyed the biggest foreign language debut in US box office history when it opened to $21.2 million. So day 1, Dragon Ball Superhero beat everything else. It beat Pokemon the first movie, all sorts of stuff. Opening weekend, it still did phenomenal, but Mugen Train, which Demon Slayer is pretty much the new Dragon Ball Z to a certain degree, it didn't quite beat out that, but it still beat out live action stuff. It still beat out Beast and all of these other things. That's crazy. Dragon Ball Super Superhero is currently playing on 3,007 screens, including 327 IMAX screens, which garnered $3.4 million in US ticket sales alone during the opening weekend. The second Dragon Ball Super movie places the characters we've come to know and love an all-new aesthetic as the franchise's first ever 3D CG animated film. According to IGN's review, the film manages... according to my review. Go watch my review, dog. We ain't talking about nobody else's review. My review on my main channel, I break it down for you. I give you the ins and outs. I was somebody that came into this movie get it out of here. I don't even want to see it. To actually being pleasantly surprised. Go check out my review. But this is going to mean a lot of different things. Like I said earlier, this is going to mean that they're going to probably start looking at the West as maybe we don't got to try everything out in Japan first. Also, this might be an indicator that 3D CG, if they could at the very least meet the levels of what Dragon Ball Super Superhero provided with these new visuals, they might start adapting more and more. So that's the good and bad to a certain degree, because I ain't gonna lie, for the most part, the 3D CG actually did work. I don't know what the hell they were thinking with those terrible trailers that they put out. Marketing was abysmally horrible, just outright bad. But it actually worked pretty well. They might start saying, we're going to just straight off the gate come through with, 3D CGI Undead Unluck anime, 3D CGI this one, 3D CGI that one. So that might be the negative, because just because it worked with Dragon Ball Super Superhero doesn't mean people are going to accept it elsewhere. And also, it's I'm always going to be 2D at heart. I don't care. I get it. We probably are on the side of it already is too late and 2D is going to lose the war. But so there's a good and a bad to it. If you've seen the film, of course, let me know what you think. How do you feel about the success? Breaking Pokemon the first movie's record day 1, coming in with 20 million, surpassing Japan opening weekend. That's also a clear indicator that Dragon Ball's fandom is much larger in the US than it is in its home country of Japan. That's insane. It's pretty much like the opposite of One Piece. One Piece over there exploding. Over here, I'm sure it'll do well, but it's not going to come anywhere close to the numbers of Superhero or what it did in Japan. And people, there you have it. Dragon Ball Super manga going on a hiatus that is undetermined at this time, and Dragon Ball Superhero the film did pretty freaking awesome. I'm happy in a way, because I enjoy the film. I was thoroughly surprised and impressed with a lot of it. Next up, on the last episode of Forever World Z. No.
I have a dream, alone in my room as I sit with the tea. Couldn't possibly think what I often see, and you don't even know how I often blink. Lights be flashing and looking at me, such a odd, unique, yet I'm so unique, and you're looking at me. If the walls could talk, they would probably read bleak, and I'd probably say, bitch, get the fuck off me.